Greetings. This is the commentary and sermonette on the song, The Nobleman. It's song number 56. I think it's probably mid to late 1980 when I wrote this. I would have been working at a street gospel mission in South Florida. The original song was this. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a lot of writing. And I listened to it and my energy level was a lot higher then. I did it a little faster than what I've recorded it, and it was just boom, 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 boom. I started out where I'm trying to explain everything. I said, I'm gonna need your undivided attention for this one. This is a parable of the Lord Jesus, and a greater than Solomon was here. May you be given ears to hear. Now let me explain the characters and the symbols in this parable. And I go through all that. And then I finally, by the time I get to here, is when I get into the actual parable. Well, I decided to cut all that out. And then at the end also, and even in the middle, I was adding quite a few things. Some of these, I'm going to go ahead and mention them because they are passages or things that do fill out the whole parable a little bit more. But when I redid it, and it still came out this long. But it's actually a lot less. So I think we're just going to read right straight through the lyrics. Before I read through them, there were two accounts that I've combined together in this. In Luke, Jesus gave 10 minas to each of the 3 slaves. And in Matthew, that same parable, probably just told it to 2 different audiences, and he changed what he wanted to change to make different points. But he gave 5 talents, 2 talents, and 1 talent, each according to their own ability. So in the one in Luke, they all got the same amount, and a mina was about 100 days' wages. So 10 minas. Golly, wait, 100, that'd be 1,000 days' wages, like 3 years worth of money to go do business with. You do that with a slave? I guess we'll talk about slaves in a minute. But what I did is I combined these 2 accounts, good or bad, right or wrong, lawful or unlawful. That's what I did. So I pulled from both of them, and here, let's just go through the lyrics. Now, on the occasion in Luke, and probably Matthew too, it says, as he was nearing Jerusalem, they were expecting to see the kingdom of God appear immediately. So he told them this parable. A certain nobleman went to a distant country to receive a kingdom for himself and then return. Before he left, he called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1 talent, according to their own ability. And he said to them, do business with these until I come again. But the citizens of that land hated the nobleman. And they sent a delegation after him, saying, we do not want this man to reign over us. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The nobleman, Jesus is talking about himself. He went to a distant country. He's talking about coming to the earth to receive a kingdom for himself, and then he returned. He returned back into glory. Before he left, he called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. Now, to entrust your possessions to slaves is a little bit different type of slavery going on, I think, because he said do business with these. So he didn't even tell them what kind of business to do or anything. He just gave, according to their own ability, 5 talents, 2 talents, and 1 talent, knowing his slaves. He entrusted his possessions to them. He leaves, and he says, do business with these until I come again. That's the whole Christian age. That's what's going on now. We are all given various abilities and talents, and we are to do business with these things until either we leave this earth or Jesus returns. Now, we are slaves, but entrusted slaves. We're given opportunity. It's not the typical slavery system, I don't think at all. Anyway, so I'm going to move on from that. But the citizens of that land hated the nobleman and sent a delegation after him, saying, we do not want this man to reign over us. In my original, I added some things like, let us tear his fetters apart and cast his cords far from us. For we're going to be our own men, doing our own thing. No submission, no, not to him. I've got to interject a couple things here. In this parable, the citizens' total rebellion against his rule. The very next part of the parable, he just takes a breath. It came about when the nobleman returned. This is about Jesus leaving, the ascension, and Jesus returning, the second coming. And this whole little breath is at least 2,000 years so far of rebellion and not wanting him to reign over us. And from God's perspective, he just almost skips over it. It's like it's nothing. 1,000 years to him is like a day, or a day is like 1,000 years. Either he can do 1,000 years of work in one day, really that's an understatement, or a whole 1,000 years, as far as eternity is concerned, is just a blip on the radar. So this 2,000 years of defiance, this 2,000 years of human history, this 2,000 years of all kinds of chaos and suffering, some of it moral suffering that we've brought on ourselves or countries have brought on themselves, kingdoms rising and falling and all the rest of it, it's just a breath to him. We do not want this man to reign over us. Now it came about when the nobleman returned. That's how much it is. Now, having said that, of course, he's kept track of everything in this 2,000 years and however much before he returns. Every detail. He says every deed ever done, every word ever spoken, every thought ever had, and even the secrets of the hearts are going to be exposed. So it's not as though this isn't important, but in the grand scheme of things, this rebellion towards him, and I'd even include the angels in this, however long they've been in rebellion, from an eternal perspective is a blip on the radar. We are so short-sighted and blinded, but we're all in that same boat, and I'm glad he has covered for that. So what he has just described in this parable is him coming to earth, receiving a kingdom for himself, like he told Pilate, my kingdom's not of this world. As Christians, we become citizens in his kingdom, and we're to function in our earthly societies as a good representative for him, but our citizenship is in heaven, in the eternal kingdom that is established and is coming and will be seen completely. It's going to dominate everything when this age is over. So he leaves, trusts with talents, do business till I come again. Citizens saying we don't want this man to reign over us. That is from when he left, and it covers to when he's going to come back. Now, it came about when the nobleman returned, second coming of Christ. After receiving the kingdom, everything's all gathered up to the judgment. He first ordered the slaves, whom he had given the talents, to be called to him, so that he might know what business they had done. The Christians, we're going to go to the judgment seat of Christ first, and we're going to be rebuked or rewarded for whatever we did or did not do in this life after becoming a Christian. Now, there's no condemnation for us, but it's either going to be wood, hay, and stubble, or it's going to be precious jewels. So he tells us to take care and watch how we build on the foundation, because no other foundation can be laid except Jesus Christ himself. And he's going to judge what we've built on him. That means how we've represented him. And there's not going to be any votes in this. It's not going to be excuses I can give. Well, this preacher said that, and that preacher said that, and this school of thought was that. I'm going to be totally accountable for what I said, taught, did in his name, representing him. And he warns that some are going to go through that, and they'll come through and be saved as yet through fire. In other words, everything's going to burn up. They made up their own Christianity. That's a lot of what I seek to expose on my website with many, many topics. The tithe thing, that's a joke, church membership, ordination, and there's many other subjects that are just religion, and they're building on this foundation, and that stuff's going to all burn up. Go to my website and you can take a look and see what I say there. Well, the first appeared, saying, Master, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. And the nobleman said, Well done, good and faithful slave. Because you've been faithful in a very little thing, enter into the joy of your master, and be in authority over 10 cities. That's a slave. You that had 5, you gained 5 more, 10 cities. Man, that's the kind of slave to be. The second slave came and said, Master, you've entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I've gained 2 more. And the nobleman said, Well done, good and faithful slave. Because you've been faithful in a very little thing, enter the joy of your master and be in authority over 5 cities. And as a side note, Paul said, when you become a Christian, if you're free, you become the Lord's slave. If you become a Christian as a slave, you become the Lord's free man. You're to obey your masters, even the crooked ones, but you're serving the Lord. So you're free of that master in that Jesus is your master, but you're free in him. It's an interesting dynamic without getting into more on that. So now, after these first 2, then the third one comes. The one who had received the 1 talent. And by the way, that one is the word heteros, and that means a different one. It wasn't like the original 2. So hold that thought. The one who had received the 1 talent came up and said, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, an exacting man, reaping where you did not sow, gathering where you scattered no seed, and I was afraid of you. So I buried your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours. But the nobleman said, By your own words I will judge you, you worthless, lazy, wicked slave. Did you know that I am an exacting man, reaping where I did not sow and gathering where I scattered no seed? That's a rhetorical question. Yes, you knew that I was an exacting man, reaping where I did not sow and gathering where I scattered no seed. You ought to have at least put the talent in a bank where I'd have received it back with interest. That's interesting, about interest. And the nobleman said to the bystanders, Take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. But the bystanders said to him, Master, he has 10 talents already. But the nobleman replied, I tell you, everyone who has shall more be given, and he shall have an abundance. But the one who does not have, even what he thinks he has, shall be taken away. Cast this worthless slave into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This third one, heteros, that means different. Instead of homo would be same. Well, he also told parable about the tares and the wheat. The tares being fake Christians, the wheat having actual grain in it, fruit in it. And he said, let both of them grow until the judgment, and then they'll be separated at the judgment. Because if you tear out the tares, you might tear out the good ones as well. So you let them grow together. The moment that we get saved, we are entrusted with his possessions, some 5, some 2, and some 1. I used to think maybe I was 5 talented. Well, a little time passed, and like some years, I was like, well, maybe I'm 2. Yeah, maybe I'm 1, but I want to use the 1. I'm not going to bury it. But he gives to each one according to his own ability. This third one was a tare. In fact, my song, Tares and Wheat, looks neat, it smells sweet, yet it's incomplete. He says he's going to judge us by our own words. I had a guy tell me today he did not believe the Bible was from God. He wasn't being hostile about it. I don't know how much he's read it or not. He was acknowledging that God is. Because he was talking about things just don't happen on their own. There's some kind of divine guidance behind things actually coming together and working. And whether it's the ideas people get or the ability to do it and whatever, there's a divinity guiding all this. That's when he said, but he doesn't believe the Bible is from God. And I let him get through, and I told him, I said, well, I appreciate what you said, and I understand exactly what you said. I said, now I do believe that the Bible is from God. I said, I became a Christian in 1977. So it's been 49 years I've been studying this thing. Actually been longer than that because it's 6 months before I became a Christian. And I said, I have a master of divinity. So I told him about the incident with Jesus and Pilate. So he gets him in private, and Jesus didn't answer him. And he said, you don't answer me. Don't you know I have authority to release you, and I have authority to crucify you? And Jesus said to him, you would have no authority over me if it hadn't been given to you from above. It was really great timing, but the religion thing has just turned a lot of people away. Another interjection. When the wicked, lazy slave who had buried the talent talks about him being a hard man, an exacting man, when the nobleman said, "Did you know that I am?" And I didn't catch this until I was working on this. And to stop right there, I am. Moses, who are you? I am. And in fact, with Jesus, whenever the Pharisees were challenging him about Abraham, he said, "Before Abraham was, I am." They took that as him declaring himself as God, pick up stones that were going to kill him on the spot. But it said he was hidden from them. It wasn't that Jesus hid himself. He was acted upon. He was somehow hidden from them because it wasn't his time yet. But I am is very important. So I am the good shepherd. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the door. All these I am the first and the last. I want to do a series on the I ams at some point. Well, here he says, did you know that I am what? An exacting man or a hard man. I am. That's another one of the I ams. I want to look at that and work on that more. And by exacting or hard, perfection is what God requires. Perfection morally and in righteousness. And we are so far from that. It's a joke. That's why we need Jesus, because he demands it. So he came here and did it. He was born under the law, fulfilled the law. He was never guilty of any commission of sin or omission. He always did what was the right thing to do. He was spotless and blameless. And that's why he could become the Passover lamb. But we're going to be judged by our own words. You ought to have at least put the talent in a bank where I could have received it back with interest. I'd like to look at that a little bit more, because I'm not sure that the Jews were totally against usury. I think it would be unwieldy usury, but I could be wrong on that. All these things to learn. The bystanders, who might that be? Because the nobleman said to the bystanders, take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. But the bystanders said to him, Master, he has 10 talents already. The bystanders are the angels. They've been sent as ministering spirits to us. They've been trying to figure out what God was doing with this. It's like they're bent over and looking through a conduit to try to figure out this salvation plan. How can this holy creator, the foundation of his throne is justice and righteousness. It's not love and mercy and compassion and faith. The foundation of his throne is justice and righteousness. How can this just, righteous, holy creator who cannot lie, and it's impossible for him to lie, how can he reach down through this veil of sin, come into this and redeem sinners? How can he do that without violating his justice and righteousness? That's what the angels, the bystanders, are trying to learn. I believe that a lot of what this age is, there's two sentient groups, the angels and man now. The angels, there was a rupture, and the ones that did not fall are referred to as the chosen angels. I believe they know that God kept them from going the way of Satan and apparently a third of the other angels. So there's that group that have sinned, and there appears to be no way for them to be able to come back to God, to be able to be redeemed, to get right with God. There's no way back for them. It may be because they saw so much of God as far as who he is that they weren't going to be given a way out for their rebellion. Now, on the other hand, then, when sin entered into here, we've been completely darkened. We've been separated from him. We know there's a God, but he says our iniquities have made a separation between us and our God. Even as a Christian, we really don't know who we're dealing with. I want to get a message together on the fear of God. And I want to say, let's forget Christianity. Let's forget salvation. Let's forget the angels. Let's forget all of these subjects. And let's just look at one thing. What God declares about himself. His origins, and I'll put that in quotes. His power. I just want to go through how he describes himself. What he tells us about himself. And You're going to tell me you don't fear this entity? Anyway, that's what I want to work on. The bystanders. Look, he's already got 10. I tell you, everyone who has shall more be given. He's given us his Son. How shall he not through him also freely give us all things? He rewards obedience. God help us. He shall have abundance, but the one who does not have, even what he thinks he has, will be taken away, or shall be taken away. Cast this worthless slave into the outer darkness. In that place there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. As far as Hades and hell is concerned, I heard it described, or maybe I came up with this, I can't remember. It's a place absent of any of the goodness of God. Right now, there's what's called a common grace, so everybody can enjoy a cool breeze and sunshine and birds chirping and other things that everybody can have access to. But there's a time coming when that common grace is going to be over with. And it's either going to be saved in a place beyond our comprehension, hasn't even entered our mind and heart, all that God's prepared for those who love him, what this new kingdom is about. He tells us some things, but it's hard to know what it's really going to be like, what glory is going to be like, what heaven is going to be like, the new heavens and the new earth. But Hades, and then followed by hell, Hades would be the spirits that their body hadn't been resurrected yet, and then hell is on the judgment of the last day. All the bodies are going to be raised, going to go into immortality, into life, or immortality into death. And, these are terrifying matters, but outer darkness and place weeping and gnashing of teeth, I think it's going to be regret or weeping, gnashing of teeth, pain. It's going to be a nightmare, and I think it's going to be an open wound for God. He says he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. He takes no pleasure in this. And that hell was created for the devil and his angels, but that doesn't mean man isn't going there as well. Unrepentant man, people that have not changed their mind and turned to him. I used to wonder, I said, isn't there a way that their pain or their suffering or whatever will, at some point, their sins will have been paid for? But the truth is, pain and suffering doesn't pay for sin. Only blood or life can pay for sin. The life of the flesh and the blood, only blood, clean blood, can pay for our sins. The whole sacrificial system was that of innocent animals and the Passover lamb. And Jesus was indeed the Passover lamb, as all pointing to him. He's without spot, without blemish, and that's the only way sins could be dealt with and forgiven. So suffering in hell, that doesn't pay for any sin. And the other thing I think is that the people that are there are going to be continually sinning. And I base that on the rich man and then Lazarus. And when the rich man died, he was in Hades, and he lifted up his eyes in torment, and he's communicating to Abraham. So he's alive in terms of aware. Jesus said, where the worm does not die. So, I don't know. It's horrific. So he's got his slaves, 1 over 10 cities now, 1 over 5 cities, 1 cast into the outer darkness, and he was a heteros, the different one. And then Jesus, as the good teacher, says, concerning those citizens of the land who did not want me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them in my presence. When people say, Jesus was a good teacher, and they're trying to compliment him, but they're not Christians. He's just a good teacher. I know they haven't read what he said. I do believe he's the good teacher. And this is saying justice is coming. Justice, righteousness of God is nothing to apologize for and to be ashamed of. It's right. And he says that every knee is going to bow to him and every tongue confess, even those who did not keep their soul alive. I don't think it'll be where he's hitting them below the knees to knock them down. I think they're going to be overwhelmed as they see who and what they are and what they've done. And they're going to fall before him knowing that they are indeed a sinner. But it's going to be too late then. There's a lot of things that are just very hard to reconcile. And I've had to wrestle with a lot of this because I don't want to fall short of warning people of this material. I mean, I'm not the one that said all this. I didn't write the Bible. If I'm going to represent it, though, I need to not apologize for it and represent it correctly and tell people. At one point, Paul said we didn't shrink from telling you all the whole counsel of God. The whole counsel of God. And see, one impact that this has on me, he says that one of our duties after we get through the judgment is we're going to judge the world and angels. We're going to be with him judging. So we got to go through our judgment first, get everything squared away, and then we're going to be judging the world and angels. That's what Paul talks about to the Corinthians, because they were taking their griefs and battles before unsaved judges. And Paul's saying, what's wrong with you? Don't you know we're going to be judging the world? We're going to judge angels? Well, if that's the case, then one of the primary goals that I have, I've got to see things the way he sees it. Think the way he thinks, act the way he acts, react the way he reacts. And like I said in some of my other videos, I don't know how to get there, but it's either going to be me standing shoulder to shoulder with him, or I'm going to be opposed in front of him. So that's why in that song I said, do whatever it takes to where on that day nothing shakes. That I'm shoulder to shoulder. So that's what one of those other songs are. But at any rate, last interjection. When I get to the end of the song, when he said, concerning those citizens of the land who did not want me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them in my presence. At that point, then I break into this very long ending, and I call it a toe-hold guitar pick ending. It's a particular type of a strum. And the reason I made it so long is, first of all, I'm hoping, maybe through AI, that all kinds of percussion can be added to this thing. Maybe even guitar leads or who knows what all to really flesh this thing out. Because the reason I wanted to make it such a long ending is because when Jesus makes these declarations and when this thing's over, what's in front of the slaves who are in 10 cities or 5 cities, or the wicked one who's in the outer darkness, or the citizens who are going to be slain before him, what's in front of all of us is eternity. So I wanted to make what Jesus said there have the impact it has and then play it out, because that is the final word. He is going to have the final word on everything. Whether we like that or not, it's not up for discussion. It's not up for a vote. And the Bible is clear that he has been given the name that is above every name in the heavens above, on earth, and under the earth. Whatever that means, he has earned and has been given by the Father full authority to execute judgment, and he is the judge of all. So I wanted to let that just play out. This is the nobleman. Get on the side of the nobleman. He is a noble man. Jesus, there was never anybody even close to him. His courage, his passion, his compassion, his wisdom, and because he had no sin, I believe that emotionally he was so pure that he felt grief in deeper ways than I would feel it. He would sense the situations of others in a much more genuine way. And that's why I said he's a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He came here and saw what we were in. One reason I believe that is he knew he's going to raise Mary and Martha's brother from the dead, and yet he wept when he saw how they were grieving. But he knew and sensed and felt that grief. And when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was praying in loud crying tears to him who was able to spare him from death. And yet he learned obedience through the things which he suffered, even the death of a cross. It is astounding what he did in order to create the possibility for our sins to be dealt with, to where we will not have to account for them. that he's paid for them. So I want to stop there. I want to thank you for listening. The Nobleman. He's who you need to listen to. He's who you need to learn about. If you listen to him, you learn about him. You take that yoke upon you and learn of him, learn from him. It only leads to one place. It leads to life, eternal life. And you will indeed live.